Coach Louis, Coach Rob is saying that he wants to give you a shout out because of your stand, the one we posted earlier about the issue in the Vismin Cup.
Yeah, so painful, coach. Especially when we saw the video. Okay, especially us here. We know most of the coaches here. Okay, we're very passionate for the game, and it pains me a lot to see these guys given an opportunity amidst the situation right now, and they just gonna do it like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is unfortunately, or I mean, it is what it is. All around the world, in every sport, this. I mean, to be honest, it is what happens when winning becomes too important. It's just, that's what it is. People get confused and they think that winning is just going to be. It's like the most important thing in their whole lives, and so they will do anything to get it. And that includes cheating, and it's not good. But you know, the people that are on this call and on so many of your calls are going to change that, and that's the grassroots people, the people that are at the lower ends with the kids. And this is the message in every situation there is an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity to use this for good and use it for teaching. So I think that's what you're doing, which is great.
I think, and I have a very good partner with me.
You do. You have good people. That's what you need. And for all you guys on the call, I also need to say, you know, probably some of you were on the one that we did a few weeks ago, and in that one I said, you know, don't get stuck trying to coach too much. And yesterday I kind of got stuck trying to coach too much, trying to do all the stuff. And I realized, man, I need Calvin's help. I need Louis' help. You know, when you get good people around you, you gotta give responsibility away and let the people that are good at the things that they do those things. You can't do it all by yourself. So I got kind of, you know, in the digital world, I'm still not there yet. I'm still learning. So it's 9 o'clock. We got a good set of people in already. I think we're going to start. It's wonderful to see so many coaches in. Today's going to be very different to yesterday. Yesterday was quite philosophical. We were talking about philosophy, so that's how it goes. So in a moment, I'm going to share the screen and show you a kind of a new deck for today. And we're going to talk about player development. So I'm just going to open one thing. Today's going to be much more about the game. It's going to be, I think you will be able to take some things away with you, hopefully to the court as quickly as we get back there. And so, yeah, we're just going to jump into it. I think that Calvin and Louis, if we get questions throughout, you know, if we find a good place to stop, guys, if you see something that you want to ask about or you want to go back over, let's do that. I know we're a bit later today. I'm probably going to keep this time. It's just a bit easier for me to do it. So we'll try not to go as long. And again, if you guys have questions, if you have comments, you can do it here in the chat or send an email, as I gave you the email address yesterday, headcoach@kairos-performance.com. And I will try to help anybody I can help if you need it and if you want it. So yeah, remember, these recordings are going to go up on the page as well. Hopefully I'll be able to do that tomorrow, starting tomorrow, and then the other two will go up in the next couple of days. All right. So I'm going to share screen right now. And we're going to look at this. Just going to make it a bit bigger. Okay. So we're going to have a little review, first of all, of yesterday. Here's something I'm going to offer to everybody on the call. If you guys do this, if you hold on a second, let me just move this somewhere. Move my face. If you guys do this, I can't. then you can send it to me. All right. So if you did the work that we were talking about yesterday, and you've got a North Star for your coaching philosophy, you've got your priorities, you've got your principles and your practices, you don't need to send me your library, because that can be quite large, and it can involve a lot of different stuff. But you could send me an example. We had 4 categories yesterday of the library: drills, games, activities, and competitions. So if you have a North Star, priorities, principles, practices, and a library example, and you send that to me, I will read it and I will give you feedback on it, to give you my opinion on it, and maybe I'm going to steal some of it as well if it's good. But that's my offer to you guys. You can do that either through Facebook or through the email address. So let's get into it. Today is about player development. And player development for me, kind of going back over a little bit yesterday, is not just about the basketball skills. It's about a lot the individual. You know, it's when I coach a team, really the whole thing is about player development. It's about people development. Yes, we're coaching a team, and yes, we're trying to win basketball games, but that's everybody. I mean, you know, that's the nature of our competition. And we, you know, I really love competition. It's part of the game, which you know, we all love, but it is just part of the game. You know, the other parts are the friendships that come out of it. The other parts are the individual challenge of trying to improve yourself and perform on a daily basis. You know, there is real there are real, like, interesting and difficult and rewarding things that we can get out of being in a team that are nothing to do with the winning and the losing of games or championships. Okay, and that doesn't mean, you know, you if you listen to me a lot, what you're going to hear me say a lot is this thing about winning and losing. It doesn't mean that I don't want to win, right? And when I coach my players and my teams, we are always trying to win, whether it's a shooting competition or a finals matchup. We're always trying to win that game, but we're always going to do it to the best of our ability, within the rules of the game, fairly, and in the spirit of the game. And the spirit of the game for me is one of enjoyment. You know, the enjoyment of, if I'm playing against Coach Louis' team, you know, I want Coach Louis' team to scout my team. I want him to really go into the details of what my team does, and I want his team to be at his best. I don't want his best player to be injured. I don't want him to be lazy and not scout me, because if he does that, it's going to make it easier for me to win. I want it to be hard to win, so that I and my players have to really prepare very well and do those things as well, so that we can win. And when two teams are really at their best and they're competing, that's the beautiful game right there. And whoever wins is going to win, you know? So, so with player development, here's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to jump around a little bit. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is what are we developing for? What's the point of all this? We're preparing for the modern game. All right. So for me, what is the modern game? The modern game is fast. If you go watch international basketball, or the Philippines national team playing, you know, when they go and they play in Olympic competition, or if you see the Euro League or the NBA or leagues around the world, the game is getting faster and faster. You have to be an athlete to compete in this game. Now, that doesn't mean that guys that don't have a lot of athleticism or are not naturally gifted in that way can't compete anymore, because I think there is there's a real value in the cerebral part of the game, like really understanding how and when to move, as well as being able to do it very quickly, is as important as the athleticism. But the game now is a fast game when you compare it with 10, 20, 30 years ago. So we have to have that in mind when we develop our players. If you're going to do skill work, or if you're going to do any kind of drills with your kids, you better be making sure that they can do this stuff quickly, you know, at a fast pace. We often say game speed, right? And that game speed is getting faster and faster and faster. So how can we train so that our kids can, not only can they handle the ball and shoot the ball, but can they have the ability to handle and stop and shoot at game speed, the fast game speed that it is now. The second thing is the game is advantage based. So what does that mean? It means that with the speed of the game that we have now, there is a lot of times where there are different numbers of players on each team in the situations. So there's a lot of transition between offense and defense. There could be a 2-on-1 situation, or a 3-on-2, or a 3-on-1, or a 4-on-1. The game is, there's a lot of possessions where it's not 5-on-5. Okay, so understanding that means that the way that we train, the way that we prepare our athletes needs to be built for that. Yeah, we're not just going to spend huge chunks of time playing half court 5-on-5 and working on our sets and our offensive systems when you go to the game and the game is fast, you know, and there's 100 possessions and there's a lot of fast break stuff, and you don't spend very much time in the half court. The next thing is it's individual offense a lot of the time versus a collective defense. And I think the NBA is quite responsible for this. You know, there are a lot of eyes on the NBA. Those players are the best athletes and usually the most talented individual offensive players. And that's the way the game is going at the moment. It's about creating your own shot, creating space for your own one-on-one or your own shot. And these players are so good, even if the situation maybe is pick and roll or a two-man game, there's so much threat from so many different places on the court now. Like, you can't step off of players because they're able to shoot the ball from a long distance. They're able to do it not only off the catch, but also off the bounce, and then they can get by you as well. So this is an individual offense game, and those are, you know, skills that we have to pay attention to, and we have to teach our kids how to do, no matter how tall they are or what their athletic ability is. And it's against a collective defense. So that means that, you know, preparing defensively as a unit against the one individual threat, and remembering that, you know, we're going to have to be cognizant of players away from the ball as well, as we always have been. But now there is so much threat from the player with the ball that we have to be really ready to help early on any penetration, to be high up on the ball handler so that they cannot get that easy shot, and then have our rotations very, very sharp, even preparing earlier than normal to get on that rotation should there be any penetration. Okay, so you know, this is difficult to do, and it's changing, you know, very quickly, given the amount of information that coaches have now with regard to scouting and video and statistics. You know, that we start to find things out very quickly about what wins games and what doesn't. And lastly, it's perimeter focused, you know, and it's fun to play the game this way. It's fun for kids to be able to make shots from outside. You're going to need to have players short and tall be able to do this. And the games are going to be high scoring with lots of opportunities for offensive rebounding, because when you shoot the ball from further away, there are a lot of missed shots. So, but that's the game, right? That's the game that we are coaches of. And so I think it's useful to have this front of mind when you think about developing your players in wherever you are. Okay. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump back and show you something that I talked about yesterday. This is my library. Okay. Sorry, I should have done this before I started that, but here is a little example of my library. Yesterday we were talking about philosophy, and a philosophy is a system of thought. And at the end, I asked you to have a coaching library. Here's mine. I just want to tease you guys a little bit. This is the way that I structure my library. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm just organizing folders that all these drills sit in. So as you can see, I have my drill library structured into offense and breakdown, defense, scrimmage, and transition. There's some other stuff down there, but it's not related directly to basketball. Then within my offensive folder, I have full court, half court, skill work. Within skill work, there's one-on-one. There's dribble, pivot, there's ball, which is scoring, pass and receive, dribbling, ball toughness, and then random stuff. There's rebounding, there's footwork, and there's post stuff. In my breakdown, I have drills for one-on-one, two-on-two. These are all half court stuff. 3-on-3, 4-on-4, outnumbered stuff, rebounding, and so it goes. Okay, so my coaching library it's well structured, right? It's not as big as some other coaches, but it's well structured. And this is kind of a download of my brain. And there's lots of things in here. And the thing I really like about the structure of it is anytime I come across something new, it challenges the structure. If I come across a new drill that doesn't fit within my structure, I need to adjust. And Calvin asked yesterday about can your North Star change? And yeah, I mean, everything in your coaching should change at some point as you evolve. So just gives you an idea of the way that I run stuff. And then this is an example of one of my drills. Okay, so this is a ball handling drill that I have here. Okay, and then I have this stuff structured for drills, for exercises in the weight room, everything related to sort of fitness and weight training here. So Olympic lifting, lower body, upper body, blah, blah, blah. And then documents here. So this is where I wanted to get to something. Let me see if I'm going to go there now. Yeah, I'm going to go back there in a minute. So anyway, we're going to come back to this in a minute. Yeah, we're going to come back to it in a minute, but just give you an idea. Also have tests here. So this is tests for both basketball and also physical testing. And again, I keep all this stuff in here and I update it regularly. So it's a nice library. And I just think it's a great way to organize my thoughts. Okay, so we're preparing for the modern game. And now yesterday we talked about principles, universal truths. I think these are the principles of player development. Again, I'm mostly talking about junior players. Player development goes on at every single level, from the grassroots all the way up to the pros. And there should be, if we separate player development from team coaching, which is hard to do because I think that coaching always should involve player development. I mean, it's all about the players. It's always about the players. It shouldn't be about anything else. And if it is, I don't know if I would have to understand that a bit better to know why it's not about the players having great experience, experiencing success, and improving. But here are some principles for player development for young players. Understand the game. Okay, this is what it's all about. It's when they're very, very young, this is about like understanding the rules. How do you play this game? So today I had a tournament with a lot of very, very young kids, like 7 years old up to 11 years old. And these guys, they don't know the rules. They don't know what double dribble is and traveling. And when they play games, especially at like 7 years old, you as a referee, you're not gonna call travel and double dribble every time, right? Because otherwise the game will never end. But slowly, we need to introduce the rules of the game to the kids, and that there is a process there. Okay, guys, I can't go into the whole process for all the levels on this call, but the idea of these calls for over these few days is to give you an idea of the kind of things that we need to go into as coaches when we think about yesterday, the philosophy of grassroots coaching, and then today, player development. So understanding the game from a very young age is about the rules, and we start with the outside parts, like the outside of the court, the boundary. You know, what court are we playing inside? Okay, now you have a ball. What are you supposed to do with that? It goes in the basket. That's rule number one. Try to throw the ball in that basket. But rule number two may be, okay, but you can't just run around with it in your hands. In order to move, you're going to have to dribble, right? And so it goes. There is a process of opening up as you let the kids understand that there are more and more and more rules to this game that help shape it and make it basketball. Now, understanding the game as the kids get older becomes very different. It becomes about understanding the principles behind the game, principles of offense and defense, the principles of the of transition game, yeah, the more detailed rules about end of game situations and things like that. And so the principle in general behind player development is kind of peeling back the layers of the game for the players. And as they get older, as they get more experienced, we help them to understand the game to a deeper and deeper level. Okay. Something else that comes with this, with junior players, is delaying specialization. And I'm not sure, maybe you guys have seen in the world of sport in general, it is now becoming more and more prevalent that experts recommend that kids play more than one sport when they're younger for as long as possible, and that they don't specialize to be a basketball player or a football player or a golfer or whatever it is very early. Why? Because the exposure to different sets of rules, to different kinds of games, to different people, to different coaches, to different environments is all stimuli. You know, it's all things that come into the player's environment and that they have to deal with it. And the more different kind of stimuli that you have to deal with, the more opportunity you have to learn. And so delaying specialization in terms of sports in general is a positive thing, right? It means play as many different sports as you can. Don't focus too much on one particular sport for the reasons I just said, and also for the reasons of physically, when you're younger. I mean, and we know this as older people as well. When you do the same thing over and over and over again, it starts to groove your body in a particular way, and that can cause problems later on. So if you're like for example, as a basketball player, you know you're always going to shoot with the same hand, yeah. So if you start doing that very, very early, you might get differences in your right hand and from your left hand physically, and you might have problems with your shoulder or something if you specialize at 3 or 4 years old, for example, as a basketball player. Now, for the sport of basketball, delaying specialization is about delaying positioning, right? So as grassroots coaches, as young coaches, we have a responsibility, you know, when we go to the game, to maybe define roles and help kids to space the floor and try to work together to be successful. There can be a tendency when we see big kids come in the gym when they're very young to label them as, you know, inside players. It's very, very effective to do that in terms of winning games. If you have a bigger player and they're able to go close to the hoop, receive the ball, and then you teach them how to pivot and, you know, use both hands to make like a little baby hook or something, or a short shot close to the basket. You can be very successful in winning games at young ages if you specialize your players. You know, if you have a little kid who's very, very good in ball handling and he's quite small, you drill him as a point guard. And so, you know, when you get in your gym a really big kid and a really skilled little kid, now you've got a 2-man combo all of a sudden, and you know, at under 10s, you're running pick and roll and you're winning all the games. Unfortunately, that doesn't help those kids at all. It will likely ruin their basketball career. Why? For the reasons that we talked about earlier. You know, the modern game is perimeter focused. So the big kid that comes into your gym at 9, 10 years old, he or she is going to need to learn how to shoot the three, you know, when they're capable of doing so. So as a coach, we have a responsibility to teach that kid the same skill set, the same things that we teach the tiny kid that comes in that can really handle the ball, and vice versa. So this maybe makes it a bit more difficult to coach the game now, or maybe it makes it simpler, I'm not sure. But when the kids come in, specializing them into positions is not necessary. So we take away that thing now. We don't need to do that. We need to help the kids to learn the fundamentals of the game first, and then we need to help those kids develop through the levels, right? And that comes first of all understanding the game, and then delaying their specialization so that they can learn to be a post player. They could also learn to be a perimeter player and all the things in between. So there is so much to do as a coach, right? I mean, you know, we never really have enough time because there are so many things to teach, so many things to learn. And, you know, now all the kids really need to learn all the skills. And what is this? This is going to cause you a massive problem if you're a junior coach. And the massive problem is you might not win at lower levels and at younger ages, because your kids are learning skills which, you know, that big kid is not going to be a very good shooter when he's younger. But if we're encouraging that person to catch and shoot at the free throw line and learn proper mechanics and put the ball on the floor, and we're also encouraging the tiny, you know, little kid to sometimes come down to the post and post up and, you know, try his footwork out, we may experience some difficulty because the kids are, you know, not used to these skills. They're learning them. They're having to make mistakes, and making mistakes is something that is a part of learning. So maybe you're not going to win some of those games, but what you are going to get is a deeper relationship with the kids that you coach, more opportunities to coach, more varied things, and you're going to get better players. It's just a question of time. Right? It's a question of time. When are those players going to get better? It's going to be slower, right? Because they're learning more skills than they might if you just specialize them when they're very young. And that kind of comes to my last point here, is playing the long game. You're not, you know, if you're coaching under 14s or under 12s or under 10s or even a little bit higher, what is your goal? You know, is your goal to win a championship this year, or is your goal that in 10 years' time, every one of the kids that you've coached had a positive experience with you? Some of them went on to play pro, but all of them are great people, very skilled, very determined, very self-aware, and whatever it is that they get into, whether they are doctors, firemen, or professional athletes, that they are great at what they do and add value wherever they go. Yeah, and that's where I'm at. Right. If I think about player development, this is the kind of thing I've got to remind myself and my staff and whoever I'm working with, that, you know, this is the long game, right? If we don't win this game because we are focused on the true development of our kids, then, you know, we will accept that, and we will help our kids understand that that's okay. It doesn't mean, again, that we're not going to try and win the game, all right? But we're going to do it in a way which benefits all of us. Okay. Any questions so far, Calvin? Is everything okay? Do we have anybody need to stop us or ask anything?
So far, none, Coach.
If you want to ask a question, please send it in the chat. If you want to make a comment, please send it in the chat. I'm going to move on now. developing the individuals, I kind of touched on this already. For me, there are 4 major areas, right? One is the kind of things that we've been talking about, basketball specific. And so I'm going to hop over back in a minute to some stuff which I am happy to share with you. You just need to ask me, and I'll work with Kevin and Louis also to share this stuff with all of you. Basketball specific stuff, so skills and fundamentals. In fact, I'm going to do it right now. So I'm going to jump over here into my documents and have a look at skills assessments. Where is it? A checklist. Here's a checklist for you. Just move this out of the way. Right. So in terms of junior players, from the kind of basic level up to, this is up to quite a high level. You need all this stuff to be checked off if you're going to be a good player. All right. So categories of ball handling, footwork, shooting, passing, individual defense, rebounding, and conditioning. I will leave mental skills as that's, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. And then I have kind of break a subcategory for those categories. So for ball handling, this would be stationary and dynamic. And I have a few different versions of this checklist, but this is something I might use with a group of kids that I have at periods throughout the years. We will do testing, and this is actually a graded sheet. So this is basically an observation. There is no pass or fail here, but it's an observation of skills. And I might use tests, or I just might use drills where I watch kids or even watch them play a scrimmage or a game and evaluate them. Okay, here is another one, a little bit more detailed, which is going into how do I grade these skills? So if I'm looking at crossovers, what kind of crossovers am I looking at, and how do I grade that stuff? And then it goes down, for all the ball handling stuff, and then the footwork, perimeter offense, post offense, shooting, and so it goes. Okay, so kind of a little bit of a reminder again, like yesterday I said, have your library, write these things out. If you want to develop players, if you're, I'm sure that you all do, how are you going to do that? What are you going to help them to develop? And this is something which is so simple, but it's crazy effective. It's a shooting evaluation. Okay, so I'm just going to touch on this very quickly. All right, every time I will do this with every group I have. We have them pair up and shoot. Okay, and one person is rebounding, the other person is shooting on the spot at the free throw line. Okay, so it's just catch and shoot, no dribbling, just catch and shoot, and we'll film everybody. Okay, you just shoot like 6 shots or 10 shots, and I try to capture 2 shots or 3 shots from the front if I'm filming, and then 2 from the side, 2 from the back, and 2 from the other side. And one of those side shots, I try to make sure that I've got the basket there so that I can see the flight of the ball. Okay, and then I evaluate the shooter based off these categories here. So the first one is receiving. Do they show a target before they receive the ball? Are they balanced? And do they meet the ball when it comes towards them? And they get a score out of 3 for each of these little subcategories here. So they could get a maximum of 9 for their preparation. So yeah, their preparation, they're receiving. And then the same goes for triple threat. Once they've caught the ball, are they balanced? Did they make a jump stop? Are their eyes on the target? Is their elbow in the right spot? Is their forearm in the right spot? So, the way that I would teach shooting when I'm talking technical stuff is we're basically here, right? It's 90 degrees. The elbow is 90 degrees. It makes an L shape with this hand right here. So when they receive the ball, the elbow is going to be by the waist and the forearm is going to be pointing forwards. Okay. And sometimes with kids, if they struggle with this, I ask them to point to the basket, and then I grab their finger and then just ask them to pull their elbow back and bend it. And that puts them in the right spot. When they're pointing at the basket, they just open their hand. This, for me, if I'm talking technically, when I'm teaching the technique of shooting, this is kind of how I go about it. And this is the evaluation I use. So triple threat, we have a series of scores here, and the score is out of 15, and then follow through. How is the extension? How is the wrist? How's the shooting hand? And how is the landing? Okay. So what we do is we film the kids. We give them a grade out of 1, 2, 3 for every single one, and they get a score. Okay. And all I have to do is give them the sheet and say, hey, if you only got a 1 on any one of these things, this is what you have to do to change it. So for example, if you don't show a target, which nobody does when you're a kid, no kids do this if they haven't been taught, they don't show a target. But this is so important, right? If you're playing in the game, how do I know that you want me to pass you the ball if you don't show me a target, right? So we teach them, if you want to get a 3 for this, you just show a target like this, okay? And it's done. And the kids, very quickly, they get it, right? Because it's very, very simple. And what this does is it's a very effective way of teaching good mechanics without doing a lot of teaching. Because the more we tell the kids, this is what you're supposed to do, this is how you hold the ball, blah, 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 blah. This way of teaching is a little bit old and is not very effective. Instead, we evaluate the kids and we say, look, here's your score and this is why. And then we just let the kids figure it out, and they very quickly change. The other thing that we do with this pair shooting thing is we put a lot of emphasis on the receiver, the rebounder. So if I see, if we're doing this shooting drill and I see the kid that is shooting, not in a balanced stance, not really taking care with some of these things, I will get on the rebounder and I will say, hey, your buddy isn't asking for the ball and he's not jump stopping when you pass it to him. What are you going to do about that? And the shooter can hear what I'm saying, right? So it's kind of funny. It's a bit of a joke because they can hear what I'm saying, but I'm putting pressure on the guy, on the rebounder. So not only does the rebounder have to tell the shooter, because I will ask them, now it's your responsibility to coach your buddy. But the shooter also heard what I said, so he probably changes it anyway. It's a very nice way to coach. And it brings everybody into the process, right? The coach is involved, the rebounder is involved, and the shooter is involved. And I love that stuff because everybody's kind of getting, they're doing things. Some person's learning to lead, everybody's learning to listen. We're developing skills. It's beautiful stuff. Okay. Again, I'm happy to share this with everybody. We'll do that after the session. Okay. Now, the other things which I am not going to really touch on today in this session, but are definitely part of player development, are the physical aspect. Okay. So we have to make sure that we are helping our young athletes develop a strong, robust, ready for action physical body. Yeah. And that means a lot of different things. It doesn't just mean being very strong or being able to jump very high. But really, the focus for me with regard to player development, when I think about the physical aspect, is helping players become strong so that they never get injured. And again, that's the long game approach. That is not teaching my kids to be the most athletic, most powerful, highest jumping kids in the gym when they are 12, 13, 14, or even 15, 16, 17 years old. It means helping them to develop great physical strength, agility, mobility, flexibility, and all these things. Great joint strength and great mobility, and very good core strength as well. Again, I showed you before my library of exercise stuff. There's a lot of different stuff in there, and we try to incorporate lots of different things into our training sessions. One person on social media that I'm following right now, which I think is doing a very nice job of giving to the community in terms of this, is somebody called Ben Patrick from the Athletic Truth Group, ATG. On Instagram, his name is Knees Over Toes Guy. Okay, so it's kind of a fun name, and a very, very interesting person who is providing a lot of good information for strength training for basketball players. So check him out. I would highly recommend watching all of his videos on YouTube. Okay, the mental and emotional aspects of player development, I think, are also extremely important. I don't think any one of these factors is any more important than any other. Basketball is one part of it. It's just like winning is part of the game. Winning is not more important than anything else. It's part of our game. And when we think about player development, the basketball skills, the basketball specific stuff is one part of it. It is not more important than the physical, the emotional, or the mental stuff. Why? Because not everybody plays basketball as a professional. The percentages are crazy small. It's like 1% or even less of people that play basketball when they are younger turn out to be professionals, especially at higher levels. So most people that play the game are going to be like you and me. They're either going to stay in the game by doing something else, coaching or refereeing or, being an organizational person, or they're not going to play basketball as a professional. They're just going to do it for fun. So if as coaches, when we develop young players, we help them not only be good basketball players, but we help them to be physically robust so that whatever they go on to do, they will be able to do it. And then we help them to be mentally strong. So we help with things like confidence, leadership, composure, calmness, clarity, clarity in terms of things like goal setting, setting out their own vision for themselves, clarity in terms of, vision on the court, being relaxed in the game so that they can focus on what is important and the important stimuli that is in the environment they're in. As you come down the floor, are you relaxed and composed so that you can see the open man, right? And there's many, many things to go into with the mental aspect. I am intending to finish, I'm not intending to finish, I'm going to finish a video course on this foundations stuff, which I'm covering here in these 4 days. It's going to be a lot more detail than I'm able to go into right now, but it's going to cover all of these aspects in great detail so that you can go into them, and I will be sharing that as soon as I can finish it. Finally, emotional, the emotional awareness aspect, which we touched on yesterday. Just briefly to talk about this. This goes so much deeper than developing just a basketball player that it's not even funny. Just imagine you have a 12-year-old kid in your practice. They have a family life, that they are a brother or a sister, a daughter or a son. They are a friend in school. They are a student in a class. They are a friend. They are a person in the community, and they have emotions and things which they are learning how to deal with as young people. And as coaches, we have such a vital role to play in helping children understand themselves. And first of all, learning that having emotions is part of being a human being. And then being aware that you don't necessarily have to act out your emotions, and you can actually allow them to come up and notice what they are and then go away. So in our basketball practices and in our games, anger is an emotion that comes out sometimes. You get angry. Like today I saw it, right? I saw 2 kids on the same team get into a fight. It was not even in the game. It was like they were waiting outside to play their game, and they got into some sort of little fight or scuffle about something, and unfortunately I wasn't there to do anything about it. I didn't see anything, so I couldn't really interject. Somebody else had already gone in, one of the parents, and I don't know if they dealt with it very well, because they just seemed, what I heard them say was, "You guys are on the same team. Why are you arguing?" And it's like, okay, well, yeah, they're on the same team. That doesn't mean that they don't fight. If you're in a family, do you never fight? Come on, when you're in the same team, there's fighting all the time because we love each other, and there is everybody is, we're trying to figure out how we can be around each other all the time and work together. And in order to understand each other and ourselves, we're going to need to fight sometimes to get our point across and to express ourselves and to also to understand what we can and what we cannot do in our group, right? So if two guys start fighting in a practice, we as a group need to come together and acknowledge that fighting is not acceptable, right? And there has to be a different way to express your feelings, right? And then there is a lot of deep kind of work that we can do here to figure out, okay, why is this person angry about the situation? What is it in the relationship which is causing this conflict? And can we help to be a part of fixing it, right? And making it better. So much stuff to go into with the emotional stuff, as well as the mental, the physical, and the basketball, that your work is never done here. All right. And so, you know, I just want to say to finish this point that there is a lot here that we can go into, but balancing the basketball stuff with the physical stuff and the mental and the emotional is something which I think that we can do in every single practice, every single day. And that's a wonderful thing to be a part of, right?
Coach?
Yes.
Yep. So, Coach, there's two comments here. So, first one is from Coach Dante. He said, unfortunately, nowadays here in the Philippines, to be able to play elite basketball, fun and learning is not enough. So, what are your thoughts and what can you suggest on that one?
Fun and learning is not enough to play elite basketball.
I think maybe as motivation.
I don't understand the question.
Remember, Coach, we have the principles in the beginning that it should be centered around having fun. But based on the question, I think if Coach Dante can also expound, I don't know if he's here with the video or, yeah. Coach Dante, are you there?
I mean, before he speaks,
Yeah.
that's absolutely
Yes,
true.
Coach,
I agree with you. We weren't talking about elite basketball
Coach,
yesterday.
hello,
Yes, Coach Dante.
hello, hello,
Yes,
Yeah.
Coach, we can hear you, Coach.
hello, hello. Coach, I'm sorry. I've got a weak connection. Hello.
Okay,
It's
Coach.
okay. It's okay.
I got a
I'll
weak-
answer the
I'm sorry, I got
question.
a weak-
I will
very weak
answer the
connection.
question. Don't worry.
Right.
You're right. You're right that the fun and learning, although I'm not sure, but fun and learning may not be enough to become an elite basketball player. Yesterday, we weren't talking about that. We were talking about grassroots level, which we defined as the most basic level. Okay, so what I was saying yesterday was that when kids come to us as coaches, right, for the first time, and when they are beginning the game and playing at the grassroots level, fun, enjoyment, confidence, success are the keys to lifelong participation in the game. Okay, so that any kid that comes in contact with us can have the opportunity to love the game and want to play it forever. I don't know if that's enough to get them to the elite level, but that's not what I said, right? To get to the elite level, there's obviously a lot of things that need to happen. There is a lot of learning and a lot of different kind of work that needs to go into that. But when we're talking about grassroots level, there doesn't need to be anything else. So,
Well, actually, because there's a grassroots level tournament that's being done. Well, of course, not now, but every year there's a grassroots level. I think even Coach Louis had this tournament also for the grassroots level, and you could see that a lot of the players there, if you really look at them, and especially when they lose, they think it's really work. You know, it's not anymore just fun for them. And actually, what I'm trying to say is, I love the idea that you're telling us that fun and enjoying the game is actually the real idea of playing the grassroots. But actually, here in the Philippines, I've noticed that even at that level, it already starts with the idea that you're not supposed to lose. You're supposed to win every time.
I agree with you, Coach. I agree with you. And I mean, you know, if we can be a part of changing that, then that's maybe our role here, you know, as coaches. I mean, where does that come from? That's for me is a question, if kids seem to think at the grassroots level, you know, and again, if these kids are 10, Coach, can you just mute for a second? Because you got some interference there. Or Calvin, can we?
Yeah, I'm actually trying. Yes.
Yeah. So if kids at the grassroots level are, you know, let's say they're 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, if they are coming out with the idea that losing is something that they shouldn't do, then that is coming from somewhere. They didn't make that up themselves. You know, kids, when they're young, they love to play and they don't care if they win or lose. And it is most of the time the adults in the room which start to teach things, right? And so if it's coming from the parents or the other coaches that, you know, you're not supposed to lose and it's terrible when you lose, and, you know, we've just got to win by any means necessary, then for me, it's like it's an opportunity to unpack this a little bit, you know, and it's a very difficult conversation because it's not straightforward. It's not easy to understand this stuff. But, and again, I am not saying that we are trying to lose. I am trying to win. There is no doubt about that. There are two teams playing and both of these teams are trying to win. What I am disputing is the notion that somehow losing is bad and winning is good. Okay, because if you have a game of two teams, one of them has to lose every single time. And if you don't have this team, you don't have a game. So the game that we have has two teams, all right? One of those teams wins and one of those teams loses. Now, there is value in losing, okay? The value can be anything from understanding that you're not good enough right now and that there are things that you need to do to improve. And that's fine. Then the next day we go to practice, right? Losing could mean that we made some mental errors in the moments when we needed to, or maybe we didn't start the game correctly. You know, we went down by many points in the beginning of the game, right? There's so many things to learn here. On the other side, there are so many things to learn, even if we win, right? Winning doesn't tell you that you are perfect. Winning just tells you that you were better in that game than the other team. But there are so many other things within the game which could indicate that you have a chance to get better, okay? This is a very deep topic, and I will go into it in my video course, all right? We don't really have time to do it right now because it's a separate thing all by itself. But again, I hope that, you know, maybe me and you, Coach, can take this offline and have a separate conversation about it. If there is a prevalent attitude in grassroots level in the Philippines that, you know, kids are coming away and are like somehow unhappy when they're losing. I mean, also of course they will be unhappy when they lose, of course, because this is we are still trying to win. Don't forget. But it's just it's a nuanced, difficult conversation, right? And it's going to take some time to change that. And there's always going to be coaches around that don't really understand. So it's always an opportunity to engage with others and talk to them about it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. Did you say there was another one?
Yeah, there are actually lots, but maybe you can finish the last few slides and then we can go. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So I just wanted to go here next. You know, when we talk about maybe you just covered this already, but when we talk about the basketball skills, for me, there are kind of two very broad categories, right? There are the fundamental skills, which I showed you guys a kind of checklist of that I had in my software for the fundamentals of footwork and ball handling and shooting and passing and rebounding and individual defense and these things. And then the other category I have is kind of application to the game. And I mean this as a very broad topic, a very broad category of all the ways that you are going to take those fundamental skills and put them into the game. All right. So when you think about player development, I think it's useful to make the point that this isn't just about ball handling and shooting. All right, because it can be misleading from social media. at least I get confused sometimes. I see a lot of skill trainers and it just seems to be about ball handling with a cone. And I'm like, I mean, that's really nice. Like you know, it can have a benefit for ball handling in the game, but what benefit does it have? I struggle to draw the application to the game. I want to see how that helps the players in the game, because in the game you cannot just stand still and dribble the ball. And so there is so much to take in here. There is so much to do when we think about player development. And my challenge to you guys is, how do you structure your drills and your exercises, your activities, your games, and your competitions, so that the kids can learn fundamental skills and have opportunities to apply them in real situations? Now, going back again to our initial slides and playing the long game, if you do it this way, the way that I'm suggesting, the learning curve is slower. It takes longer, because if a kid hasn't stood still and dribbled the ball 1,000 times like this, and then be put into a situation where they have to handle the ball, they will be less familiar with the ball, and it will be difficult for them to do everything because of all the things going on, like in a pick and roll situation, for example. But if they are given opportunities to place these skills into real situations fairly early, they start in your brain, it starts to work immediately. Okay, this is what I need this for. This is why I need to learn how to dribble, because it happens here and here and here. And this way of learning has been shown to be deeper. It takes longer, but it's deeper. It means that it's harder to forget it. Excuse me. So just wanted to touch on that again. It's something which we can go into at a different time, about all of the different skills and applications to the game, and how to translate that into building your practices. But again, it's like, this is part of building your coach's library. How are you going to do this? Okay. And I'm going to try to finish fairly quickly with a point about progression. Okay. Many years ago, it was brought to my attention that my way of progressing drills was wrong, and I was damaging the development of my players because of it. And that's not to say that I was doing terrible things with my kids, but it's just to say that I had an idea of progression as 1-on-0 goes to 1-on-1, and then 2-on-1, and then 2-on-2, and then 3-on-2 and 3-on-3. And that was my progression to go through a kind of development of skills, right? So 1-on-1s, 1-on-0 stuff goes into 1-on-1. All right. It was brought to my attention that this was too big of a jump for kids to go from no defense to a defender standing right in front of them. And this was like a brick hit me on the head. It was a crazy realization that, yeah, there are steps in between 1-on-0 and 1-on-1, and steps between 1-on-1 and 2-on-1. Okay, so I'm going to show you kind of what I learned there here. Let me move this on the other side. So as an example, where you go from 1-on-1 to it's basically 1-on-0 plus 1, right? So if I change that here, 1-on-0 plus 1, 1-on-0. And that means, like, I give you a quick example. If you teach kids how to score layups, you teach them 1-on-0. They learn the individual skills first without defenders. The next thing that we need to help them understand is the concept of pressure, okay? And that can be with time and space. We talked about time and space being fundamental principles yesterday. Time and space in the game is always need to be thought about. You need to think about it. So from 1-on-0, we can say, let's say I have my player on the 3-point line on the wing and I taught them how to shoot that layup. Now they're going to do the same layup, but this time there is a player standing behind them. Okay. And as soon as the player with the ball starts to go shoot the layup, the guy behind them is going to chase them and try to touch them on the back. Okay. Then you can progress that to the player can also try to get in front of the offensive player and play defense. So do you see what I've done? I've made a quite a subtle change to the progression, which allows my player to still practice the skill without things in front of them. But now they have things in their head that they have to think about. Okay, because a minute ago I just said there were fundamental skills and then there are application to the game. And I'm kind of saying that we got to get away from just doing drills with cones and get into the game with all of these skills. But there is a way to transition it, right? You can't just throw a kid who doesn't know how to dribble into a pick and roll situation, because they will drown. They don't understand the first part about dribbling the ball. But what we can do is we can teach them how to handle the ball, and then we can put them in a situation where they feel some pressure, but there's not anybody still in front of them. Okay. And so then it goes from 1-on-0+1 advantage, we can have 1-on-1. And again, you can still limit the defender here, like what we call here 1-on-1 handicap. Okay. 1-on-1 handicap means handicapping the defense. It means maybe that they have their hands behind their back, or their hands on their head, or on their shoulders, or on their chest, whatever you want. Okay. So now the offensive player sees the defensive player. There is now a person in front of them that they have to beat, but that person doesn't get to play defense, to their full capacity. And what is this doing? This is helping the offensive player to build confidence. And then we go to 1-on-1. Okay. So you see here, I have 3 steps before I get to 1-on-1. And we can do the same here. After 1-on-1, then we can say 1-on-1 disadvantage, right? So we can put the offensive player at a disadvantage where maybe they are not allowed to dribble anymore, or they've only got 1 dribble, or they have a limited space and the defense has full capacity to play defense. Okay. So from 1-on-0 to 1-on-1, there are 5 steps. And then so it goes, you can go down 2-on-0, 2-on-0+1, 2-on-1, 3-on-1. Okay. And then we can maybe jump back into 2-on-2 handicap. Yeah. Where the defense is handicapped. And then we can go 2-on-2 full. And then we can go 2-on-2 disadvantage. Okay. The text might be a bit small. I'm sorry for that. But again, we share this. So you see kind of what I'm saying here, right? Progression is something to think about. And why is it important? It's important because when kids are learning, when players are learning, we're talking about player development. If you make things too easy for them, they may get bored. But if you make things too hard for them, they will give up. And finding the balance is one of our challenges as coaches. All right. So I love this when I heard it, and it's something I've used ever since and played with a lot, is using a proper progression so that I can just, every time a kid or a player starts to experience success, we celebrate that success. We let them know that it's great that they've made progress, and then we make things just a little bit harder. And then, the success is going to go down a little bit, but it's not going to go down so much that the player gets discouraged. And I think that this is so important for learning and building confidence in players and player development, that it's untrue. And I know, to the point of the coach that asked the question, it's going to be kind of difficult to sell this when you're very interested in winning games straight away with under 12s. But we're playing the long game here in this call, and that's what it's about. So there you have it. I want to touch on 2 more things, and then I'm going to finish. I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is phases of the game. So when you think about player development, think about the phases of the game. Okay, this is going back to what was I talking about earlier with application to the game, right? We have 4 basic phases: offense, defensive transition, defense, offensive transition. And this is not a start and end. This is a circle. Yeah. So there is no beginning and end to this. It can happen at any time and does not start with one and does not finish with one. But there are principles within each. And I would encourage you, in terms of starting and finishing, when it comes to teaching, to start with offense. Okay, for the reasons that I talked about yesterday: confidence and success. When we teach offense first, we help players learn how to be successful and how to do well in terms of scoring. And when kids can score, they will be confident. And when they are confident, they are more open to learning. And then we can start to introduce defensive stuff. But here is a list of applications to the game in the different phases that I would say are very important to consider when it comes to player development. We'll share this one, and I'm not going to go into it. Finally, I would like to say that 3-on-3 is a beautiful way to test and assess and help test and assess, first of all, the development of your players, and then provide learning opportunities for them. 3-on-3 is the game inside the game. Nothing happens in 5-on-5 that doesn't happen in 3-on-3. Okay, everything that you can do in the game, you can do in 3-on-3. And why is it good to do it in 3-on-3? Because there is more space on the floor, so that gives more learning. It's more time and more space to learn. The players can be more confident that way. They can make mistakes and not be punished for it so badly. And the other thing is that players get more reps than in 5-on-5. So if we're playing 3-on-3, you're going to get more touches of the ball. You're going to get more opportunities to play defense or run through the situations that whatever it is that you're teaching than you are in 5-on-5. In 5-on-5, players can, they can disappear and they cannot get touches and they cannot have reps. So incorporating 3-on-3 into everything that you do as a way to teach certain things, to assess certain things, to test the learning and reinforce the learning is a wonderful practice. And obviously you can do this in the full court as well, 3-on-3.
Coach, your audio. I think it's the other phone, Coach.
You still with me, guys?
Yes.
Sorry, Calvin, you there?
Yes,
Yes, coach.
That was my fault. My phone started ringing. Okay, so I'm going to finish on this mic. I'm going to end it there. I hope that was helpful for everybody, and we'll take questions now.
Yeah, Coach. Okay, so before I'm collecting all the questions, Coach Louis.
Yeah. Okay. I'm the first. Yeah. Hi, Coach Rob. Yeah. It's just because it's me also. It came with with realization also, because I think the coaches will agree. Some of the coaches had the same experience that when we talk about individual development, especially within the grassroots with the youth, most of us before coach is just focusing teaching players with the basketball.
Mm.
During clinics, you'll see a lot of dribbling drills, passing drills, just 2-on-2. But it's very seldom, that you see coaches teach basketball without ball.
Mm.
Without the ball, I mean, it's like what do you do? Like that's why the tendency, coaches, the tendency is every time we play scrimmage, the ball is like magnet, because everybody thinks everybody cannot play without the ball. And what happens happens is every time someone has the ball, okay, the tendency is all players goes to that ball so that they'll have a chance to get that ball, and that's the only time they think they're playing basketball.
Yeah.
Coach, what's your take on this one? It's like when we teach individual skills,
Yeah.
how can we teach skills, basketball skills, without the ball?
Um, yeah, I mean, the first thing to say, I guess, is that that's kind of what one of the points I wanted to make today is individual player development is not really about, dribbling and shooting. I mean, that is part of it, and of course, but it's only the what percentage it is only an equal amount as everything else, right? And everything else is all of the things that you talked about, moving off the ball, defending, mental, emotional, physical, all these kind of things, right? It's part of the game. It's not the game. And in terms of the thing that sprung to mind when you were talking was, everybody loves Steph Curry right now. And you ask kids, why do you like Steph Curry so much? Oh, because he can shoot threes from a long way away. Okay, but do you understand, or do you know, how did he manage to get that space that he has when he shoots those shots? Because the guy doesn't stop moving, and he knows many, many things that are very, very subtle. They're very subtle. Like, he's like Reggie Miller. He's a modern day Reggie Miller, who was just incredible at moving without the ball. And it's the appreciation of that. The players are not going to appreciate that, especially kids. They don't care because they're kids. They see the ball go in the basket from a long way away. That's all they want to know. But when, now we're kind of talking not necessarily about grassroots kids, because as a kid starts to know the game and they start to get better at it and they want to be better at it, they're not in grassroots anymore. Now they're in development, kind of getting towards elite. So these kind of kids, that's where there's going to be chances for us as coaches to have that conversation. So when you see it happening in the game where the kid is just worried about the ball all the time and he can't get his shot off or her shot off, or for some reason they're not making shots because maybe they don't have enough space, or they're not very efficient with their technique and they're getting closed out on. Now it's a time to say, hey, you know how Stephen Curry gets open so easily? Here's how. It's about this, this, and this. And none of it is to do with the ball. And he's setting screens. He's faking. He's moving away from the ball. There are times when Stephen Curry is not worried about the ball because he needs to have these times so that the defenders will not think that he's always trying to get the ball. Because if they always think that, they're always going to guard him. If they think that he's just off there doing something else away from the ball, there's going to be a second where they're going to forget. And then there's a time when he's going to go. So these are all things which the opportunities are going to come in the practices and in the games. The difficulty and the challenge for all the coaches, or us, is to catch those opportunities as ways of saying, hey, this isn't just about, having the ball, and if you want to have the ball more, and if you want to do well with the ball more, you're going to have to do other things which involve not having the ball. It's just like teaching a kid, if you want to get open, the best way is go help somebody else get open. That's the best way. Once somebody else gets open, the defense starts scrambling, you will be open more. And this is nothing to do with the ball. So these opportunities are there. It just takes a bit of time, I think.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah. So, coaches, most of these are comments, but there's one question here inside. It's about Coach teaching now during the pandemic because of virus. At least in the Philippines, Coach, I know it's different in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Here we cannot really go out. Minors have not been allowed to go out since last year.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How do we do it, you mean?
Yes, Coach. That's the question.
Yes, man, it's hard. Yeah. I'm trying, like probably all of you guys are, to build something online to help these kids, whether it be classes or videos. It's, we all have our own lives as well to navigate at this time, with our work, our families, and all that stuff. So it takes a bit of time. I mean, you know, you just do what you can. I don't know what else I can say. What we can do between us is we can share ideas. The idea that I have is to think of all the ways that I could work out at home, and then film that and share it with the kids, and build workouts which I would do, or I might set kids to do. And I think what I think when I consider this stuff is, okay, if the kid doesn't have any equipment and they're in their house, like I'm sitting in my kitchen right now, for example, and I can only work out here, what could I do? And then I just think about that, make a workout, something, try to vary it so that, you know, we could do some basketball stuff, maybe we do some fitness stuff or whatever it is. And so that's what I'm trying to do, to share that with the kids via social media, something like that. And there are so many things to do. It's not a good situation. It is very, very difficult. But we are where we are, and it's really, you know, where I'm at the moment is there's basketball things that we can do, there's fitness things that we can do, but there are also other practices and rituals which are about mental well-being. For example, meditation, for example, journaling and writing down your thoughts. So this is something I would like to offer maybe to everybody, is if you have kids that are, you know, older than 10 years old, let's say, or maybe a bit younger, have them write down every day one thing that they are thankful for. And there have been quite a lot of science done on this practice. This changes your brain. If in the morning you wake up and you write down, I am thankful for at least one thing, it changes the state of being to being a bit happier. Because you say, oh, I'm thankful for having a mum and a dad, and have a roof over my head and a chance to practice basketball, you know, even if it's in my kitchen, or, you know, whatever. And so if you do this in the morning and do it in the evening, you're going to start the day happier and end the day happier. It's a beautiful practice. A couple of other things you can do with writing is just write down, what are you going to do tomorrow? You know, is there one thing that you need to do? You know, make sure you get that done. When you write it down, it just becomes a little bit more powerful. So those are the kind of things I'm thinking about, and just figuring out ways of sharing that. And you just do whatever medium you have to do that, just do it. And let's try to share those ideas. And yeah, that's it, I think.
Yeah. So, Coach, I'll try to make a bit of comment on this. There's three things that are prevalent in the chat group. Number one, Coach, is basically what you said about relationships, infighting, arguing, and all this.
Okay.
The other one, Coach, is about winning and losing.
Well, what is it about, though? What's the comment about?
Sorry, Coach. I thought you were also reading the comment. So basically,
No.
for this one, Coach, it's the fighting. Where's the fighting?
Yeah.
Meaning family argues not because of resentment, really, but rather out of frustrations, because of the belief that they can do more than what they tend to show. Same with sports team. The principle of being a team is like being a family instead of just being a basketball club. So it's a comment on the story that you gave earlier about the two guys fighting.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, so the parent said to the kids, you guys are on the same team. Why are you arguing? And to me, it was like, I mean, you're a dad. Like, you don't have any arguments in your house? It's madness. That's a mad thing to say, really.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to have arguments. Of course they're going to fight. They are children on the same team, and they see each other every day. And not only that, they're being fed by the adults that sometimes, you know, you should play more. You know, you should be the person to shoot that shot. You know, you should be the person to win that game. Oh, you know, you see it in the games, parents shouting just silly things. And we group here and other coaches and other parents around the world are confronting this and saying, hey guys, you need to wake up a little bit and act a little bit differently, because this is hurting your children. Don't forget that you were a child once, and you are broken because of your parents. They didn't understand this either. So, you know, I have mental and emotional struggles and difficulties, which I know are because of the way that my parents brought me up. I love my parents and they did the best that they can with what they had because they had parents as well. And so now I got my chance to learn from them and do a little bit better, just as they did from their parents. And so there's going to be fighting, and it is because of love, and it is because of kind of finding out our place in the world. And if you don't argue with people, you never understand really what they think. Okay, so an argument is a good thing. It's the question is, how do we respond after this? And how do we reflect on our own behavior? You know, so those two kids, maybe if they are given the opportunity to have a think about how they acted, and maybe given an opportunity to write down or say later on, right? I'm saying later on when the dust has settled and they have a good coach or a nice mum and dad that say to them, hey, the kid's name is Jules, who was in this fight today. Hey, Jules, you remember that fight that you had earlier today? Do you think, you know, how would you rate the way that you acted, you know, out of 10, for example? Are you happy with, you know, how you dealt with it? Is there anything that you might have done differently? I mean, maybe they're not going to answer if they're 14 years old, but just the, you know, if you're patient and just a little process in the mind that goes, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said that swear word, or I shouldn't have punched that guy in the face. You know, maybe there's a different way, you know?
Yeah. And coach, another comment here was about the limited numbers of opportunities for players. For example, in the Philippines, coach, we have 8 UAAP teams, 10 NCAA teams, only 12 PBA teams, and 5 WNBL teams. So I mean that's for the whole country. We have some regional leagues, some semi-pros, and other leagues, but those are the opportunities for playing. So as you said, not everyone will reach that level. And sometimes, I think to answer some of the comments here also is, I mentioned to the group, we have to understand the premise of this talk, including yesterday's one, that it's really about the level we are coaching. Because I think, Coach Rob, I mean, from the Philippine side, most coaches are used or have been trying to train their kids or train their teams on an elite level way that they want them to be. And most coaches will always say that this is your potential. I see your potential in you. I want to bring this out and I want you to train this way. And basically, coach, what you were saying was um, it depends on the level also of how good they were, where they came from, their history. Because some of the coaches here, coach, are not into player development. They're competitive coaches for their team. So basically, remember, coach, our previous discussion. What's your mandate in the school? If your contract is to win the game, or
Yeah.
your head is on the chopping block,
Yeah.
then basically your decisions is guided by that one. But on the development side, I think, Coach Rob, another thing that I want to point out is the non-existence of clubs here. In the Philippines, most of the teams are school-based. And the teams that are school-based, usually their training time are very, very small. It's only maybe 1 hour a day maximum for those with good sports programs. Unlike other places or other countries, you have a school team, but on a weekend you also have your club practices and you have scrimmages there. You have different teammates there, so your exposure is a bit different. Here in the school, it's basically just your team or just your coach. Yeah. So because most of them, coach, are asking, some of them are about the training time, because of course there's so many things to teach, but training times are very limited, very, very limited. So for example, coach, the testing and the benchmarking that you were saying.
Yeah.
So some of the coaches I know personally, they're doing that, but some of the coaches, they try to skip that one, because that one is more of like a more for the development side, like a tryout or a club style, but they're just focused on the team that they're handling right now, like just 15 guys. So some of them, they don't really do testing anymore, and I think most coaches here will agree. They just skip to the game situation, game drills, and all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions in that. So to deal with the lack of clubs and maybe elite opportunities, maybe there are people on this call, at least there are people in the Philippines that can start working, or I think Louis and Calvin are two of those people that are working on trying to create more opportunities. and you know, that's a great thing to do. Hopefully you all guys will be able to carve out more playing opportunities for more players as we move forwards. Otherwise, it is what it is. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, I know my next door neighbor, her husband, like 2 years ago, was bitten by a mosquito and died. I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's happened, and there's nothing you can do to change it. So if what I'm saying here is that if you're a coach of a team and you're just worried about the amount of opportunities that are out there in the future, you're either going to go do something about it, or you just have to accept it. You know, it is what it is. And for me, it kind of it makes my point for me that if there are not that many opportunities in the future for kids, then why are we focusing so much energy on trying to help kids for that future that isn't there? Why aren't we focusing more energy on the whole thing? You know, wherever this kid goes, whatever they do in the future, let them be great at that. Okay. And that is for me, is the true core of why I want to coach, because I get the opportunity to influence the future of these people, whatever they do. And it really doesn't matter. You know, now they're playing basketball and maybe none of them will be pro basketball players, but I will have helped shape what kind of person they're going to be whenever they do it. And if we do a really good job, then they will be excellent individuals at whatever it is that they choose will be their profession. And hopefully that I'm getting my point across, right? I mean, if they turn out to be a fireman, you know, let's have them be like an unbelievable athlete and a great leader and a great communicator and a great teammate and have good physical skills, because if you're going to do a physical job, you better be able to move, right? So, and basketball can give you all of that. So now basketball can make you a great fireman or a great doctor or a great school teacher or, you know, whatever it is. That was one thing. What else is there in there? Something else you touched on at the back of that point.
Yeah, Coach. Yeah, I just wanted to add up what Coach Calvin had raised. I think, yeah, we're really we're having that blueprint already of trying to encourage a club-based basketball, because also with the realization that there are coaches, okay, because back here, Coach, because since everything is school-based, we are forced to winning. And even this coach, okay, he's really not into, okay, he just wanted to develop players, teach basketball. He is forced to coach to win.
Yeah.
So yeah, it that's why, okay, if there's an existence of clubs where just kids will go and there are coach there that will teach them to play the basketball, to a right way to playing basketball, I think we can offer more jobs.
Yeah, that's beautiful, and I hope you guys are able to do that. That reminds me, Calvin. So about that winning problem. I mean, yeah, it's a problem, and I can't help, you know, guys that are in that situation, really, other than to say, if you're in that situation, then okay, number one, we need to accept that that's a situation, and you need to do the work that you need to do to keep your job, right? But then, just like with all of these other situations, you know, you're still working with people, right? You're working with an owner and a GM, or, you know, whoever it is that's above you. You have a daily kind of, you know, if you see them every day or every week, you have a daily kind of challenge to chip away at them and say, hey, you know, I know we're trying to win and I'm doing everything I can to win, but you know, we got these things that we're also trying to do. And, you know, look at one of those guys that just left us and now he's this great politician, or he's changing Philippines, you know, politics or whatever. You know, that was because of, you know, a lot of that was because of us. Do you know what I mean? Like making sure that people that you're working for, okay, right now it's about winning and you are trying to do that, but also helping them realize the value that you can also add to the lives of the people that you're working with. And day by day, you know, give people a chance. You never know. If you stay in that job for 3 years and every day you kind of chip away, all of a sudden you'll look back and say, well, actually, we didn't win a championship last year and I've still got my job. because people see the value that I'm providing. So, you know, it's hard, you know, don't get me wrong. And, but these are the kind of people, Louis, Calvin, and all the guys on this call, which I think are slowly, you know, having a conversation at least about, doesn't have to be about winning all the time. You're on mute, Calvin.
Sorry, coach. Just an observation on the group that we have. I know we're running a bit late, but we actually increased in number during the time of Q&A, and actually most people on turned their videos on, because Q&A is really like I think what really most of these coaches are here for. And again, coaches, Coach Rob is very approachable. You can email him at headcoach@kairos-performance.com, or you can add him on Facebook. And he's very generous enough to be willing to share the slides that he gave, and the parameters, the benchmarking and testing kits that he developed. But of course, you can create your own or pattern it after him. Coach, last question.
Hey,
Good evening, Coach Rob.
before you ask that question, I just read back this question about the pandemic, and you know, I really hope that that's not true what this person says about things don't look like they're going to get back to normal, you know, at some point.
Unfortunately, Coach, we don't really think 2021 will be.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe
So,
next year.
yeah, I mean, it is a priority of mine, and you know, I've spoken to you, Calvin, about this before. I got to try to speed this up, but I'm trying to put some things together which can help, you know, young players who are at home, and you know, it takes a lot of videoing and kind of preparation, and I'm trying to fix that stuff, but you guys will all know about that once I've done it. And yeah, we'll just try as much as we can to help kids stay active, be healthier, and also, you know, feel happier at home, so that at least we can make a positive out of what is a negative right now, and then prepare, hopefully at some point, to be back on the floor.
Yes, Coach. One last question, Coach, from Coach Emerson Barbosa.
Yeah.
He said, "Good evening, Coach Rob. What is your insight about some players who think best in a formal environment compared to others who can concentrate more on an informal setting? Do you like adjust? Do you find, because Coach, as you said, finding balance is key. But when you're dealing with like 10, 15 kids, 20 kids, and most of them deal with different stimulus at the same time, so do you individualize program for them?"
Well, yeah, I mean, the challenge of time is one we all have. Some of us more than others in terms of the amount of time that we have to coach our kids. I think the online, the world that we have been thrown into, I do agree in the sense that coaching is maybe never going to be the same, because now there are so many ways to contact and stay in communication with players without seeing them, that actually this is going to be a positive in that respect as we go forwards, that even though you only have 1 hour of practice time a week, you could also be using social media or apps or something to that nature to help your kids stay active when they're not with you, or do their journaling, or do their own self-testing, and then record the results, like lots of things like that. So yeah, what was I saying here? So in terms of like the formal and informal environment, yeah, we got to strike a balance. Okay, you can't, if you only have 1 hour a week and you got 12 kids, you can't individualize everything. You don't have time for that. So you have to find the balance for you. If it's just 1 hour or if it's 10 hours, you have to plan for those hours that you have, understand the people that you've got as much as you can individually, and then you know, you got to put the puzzle pieces together. That's your job. That's a coaching job, right? Is to find the way where everybody can learn. And that the informal versus the formal thing doesn't mean that the player that learns in an informal environment, that doesn't mean that he's not going to learn in the formal environment. He just maybe isn't going to learn as much or as fast as some of the other guys, and vice versa. So, you know, it's okay. You have to put those things together and do the best that you can to give an opportunity for everybody in the group to do well. But remembering that you cannot be all things to all people. You have to make a line in the sand about, okay, this is what we can do and this is what we cannot do right now, and prioritize. I hope that makes sense, but that's kind of the challenge that we have is to. I heard a coach say many years ago, creating a practice is like making a salad. You need some lettuce, you need some tomato, you need some onion, some cucumber, some carrot in there, some celery and some cress or whatever. And how you put those things in there is kind of up to you. And my way of putting together that salad is different to yours, Calvin, different to yours, Louis, different to all these guys. But it doesn't mean that either one of those is right or wrong. It's just our little differences in the way that we do it. As long as we are trying to think ahead and plan for all of those kids, then you will be okay, and you'll be fine.
Thanks, Coach Rob. Coaches, don't forget, please like Kairos Performance on Facebook. I will share the link later, and have your players like it as well, because I know we are from different parts of the Philippines, different groups. But thank you for joining. But with Coach Rob, we can go into one one page where we can access whatever he is imparting to us. So that one is Kairos with a K, Kairos Performance on Facebook. You can just search it.
Thank you, Calvin. I think we're good. Guys, I'm going to keep this time. I hope you don't mind for the next 2 days. It just helps me a little bit, be a bit more relaxed. Don't forget, if you can't be on the live, that I'm going to upload these videos to that page. So if you miss it, you will have access to it. And again, don't worry, you just reach out to me if there are any other questions from that. So it will be 9 p.m. for me, 10 p.m. for you tomorrow and Monday. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about practice planning. So I'm going to go through kind of my way of thinking about practice planning, my way of doing it. I will show you some of my practice plans, and I will talk about like the structure of it, why I do what I do, some considerations on the kind of drills and activities that you might have in there. And then we can do some questions and things like that tomorrow.
Coach, one final question from my end. Logistically, do you prefer to email them one by one the slides or the presentations that you have, or do you prefer to maybe collect all their emails and then I give it to you and then you can forward it one time? Which one do you prefer? Because for sure they will ask for the copies, especially.
I will do whatever you guys need. I can send these two to you right now, Calvin. It's fine.
Oh, okay, Coach. Okay, Coach.
Let's get everybody's email, guys, if you can. If we can collect that as well, and then we can keep sending more stuff, because I got a lot of stuff I can send.
Okay, Coach.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Get some rest. Good night. Have a good weekend.
Good night, Coach. Yep. Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thank you again, Coach Rob. Okay.
Good
Thank you, Coach Alvin. Okay, thank you, coaches. Okay. Stay safe. Good night.
Thank you, coaches.
Thank you, coach. Thank you, coach.
Thank you, Coach Rob.